"We're done here. Leave," said Stephen Colbert aggressively. In a shocking turn of events, late-night TV became the battleground for one of the most explosive celebrity confrontations in recent memory. What started as typical talk show banter quickly spiraled into chaos when host Stephen Colbert's sharp jokes pushed tech billionaire Elon Musk to his breaking point on last night's episode of The Late Show. The studio lights were extra bright. Last night on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. The audience buzzed with excitement as they waited for the night's main guest. Elon Musk, the famous billionaire who owned everything from electric cars to social media platforms to rocket ships, was about to walk onto the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the man who promises we'll all live on Mars someday, though based on his recent projects, we might get there faster by walking. Elon Musk," Stephen announced with his signature smirk. The audience clapped and cheered as Elon walked onto the stage with a tight smile. He gave a small wave before sitting down in the guest chair across from Stephen. Anyone watching closely could see that Elon looked tired, with dark circles under his eyes. He straightened his black blazer and tried to look relaxed, but his fingers tapped nervously on his knee. "Welcome to the show, Elon. It's been a while since you've graced us with your presence," Stephen said, leaning back in his chair. "Thanks for having me," Elon replied. "Been busy with a few projects." "A few?" Stephen raised his eyebrows. "From what I understand, you're running about 7 companies, buying new ones every other week, and still finding time to post weird memes online. At 3 a.m., do you ever sleep?" The audience laughed and Elon chuckled along, though his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "Sleep is overrated. There's too much to do," Elon said. "We're making real progress with SpaceX, and Tesla just released some exciting new features." Stephen nodded, taking a sip from his mug. Right. Speaking of Tesla, I saw that new self-driving update. Very impressive how it can now identify stop signs most of the time." The audience giggled. "I mean, what's a little fender bender when we're talking about the future, am I right?" Elon's smile faltered slightly. "The safety record is actually very good and improving all the—" "And those Cybertrucks," Stephen interrupted, warming up. "Now, nothing says, 'I'm compensating for something,' quite like driving a stainless steel triangle to pick up groceries." The audience roared with laughter. A flash of annoyance crossed Elon's face, but he quickly composed himself. "The design is actually very practical. The steel exoskeleton—" "Practical for what? The robot apocalypse?" Stephen shot back. "I guess if the robots rise up, at least the Cybertruck owners will survive. That is, if they can figure out how to open the weird doors." More laughter filled the studio. Elon's jaw tightened and he shifted in his seat. "Look, we're trying to push boundaries in design and function," Elon said, his voice strained but still calm. "Not everything is going to be conventional." "Conventional? No, certainly not conventional," Stephen agreed, his tone growing more sarcastic. "Like your boring company. Very unconventional to dig tunnels that can fit one car. Revolutionary stuff." Elon's right eye twitched slightly. "The tunnels are designed to alleviate traffic congestion in major cities. It's a starting point for—" "A starting point for what?" "The world's most expensive and least efficient subway system?" Stephen looked directly at the camera with an exaggerated expression of disbelief. "You know most big cities already solved this problem with public transportation, right?" The tension in the studio began to rise. The audience's laughter became more nervous as they sensed the growing friction between host and guest. "What about that robot you unveiled?" Stephen continued, not letting up. "The one that was basically a person in a costume? How's that coming along? Has it learned to do the robot dance yet?" He stood up and did a jerky robot dance, causing the audience to erupt with laughter again. Elon's face reddened. "Optimus is, making significant progress. We're working on— And don't get me started on your social media platform." Stephen plowed ahead, sitting back down. "Since you bought it, It's become the internet's favorite dumpster fire. How much did you pay? For it again? 44 billion. Ouch! The audience gasped at the directness of the attack. Elon's fingers gripped the armrests of his chair. The platform is actually performing well financially now, Elon replied, his voice noticeably cooler. We've made significant improvements to the algorithm and reduced bot activity. Right, the bots. Stephen nodded, pretending to be serious. Very important to get rid of those pesky bots, so real humans can argue about conspiracy theories instead. The band leader played a quick rim shot, but the tension was palpable now. The audience watched with a mixture of amusement and discomfort. Speaking of financial performance, Stephen continued, looking at his notes. Tesla stock took quite a tumble last month, didn't it? Down what, 30%? I guess that's what happens when your CEO is busy posting memes instead of, running the company. Elon's nostrils flared. Market fluctuations are normal. We're still... Fluctuations? Is that what we're calling it? Stephen laughed. That's like calling the Titanic sinking a minor leak. I heard some of your investors are getting pretty nervous. Maybe they realize that Mars colonies and underground tunnels aren't the best use of their money. The studio grew uncomfortably quiet. Everyone could sense this had gone beyond typical talk show banter. You know what, Stephen? Elon finally spoke up, his voice dangerously calm. I came on this show in good faith to talk about our projects, but all you seem interested in is making cheap jokes. I'm a comedian, Stephen shrugged. Making jokes is literally my job. And when someone promises flying cars and delivers exploding batteries, it's kind of hard not to joke about it. That was it. Something snapped in Elon's eyes. You think it's easy? Elon's voice rose suddenly, making several audience members jump in their seats. You sit here behind your desk making fun of people who are actually trying to solve real problems in the world. What exactly have you contributed besides snarky comments? Stephen looked taken aback for a moment but quickly recovered. Whoa there! Did I hurt the billionaire's feelings? Should I call the wambulance? He made a mock crying gesture. The audience wasn't sure whether to laugh or gasp. The camera zoomed in on Elon's face, which had turned a deep shade of red. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for his water glass. You have no idea what it takes to build these companies, to push innovation forward, Elon said through gritted teeth. It's easy to sit there and criticize. It's also easy to promise the moon, literally, and then deliver disappointment, Stephen fired back, his own temper rising now. How many times have you announced something amazing that never actually happened? Remember when you said we'd have 1 million robotaxis by 2020? I'm still waiting for my robot chauffeur, Elon. The bandleader played a tense musical cue, sensing that things were spiraling out of control. The show's producer could be seen off-camera looking concerned and making cutting motions with her hand. But it was too late. Elon stood up abruptly, knocking his chair backward. You know what? This interview is over, he announced, reaching for his microphone clip. Stephen raised his eyebrows. Come on, we're just having a little fun here. Can't the man who wants to colonize Mars take a few jokes? Elon's fingers fumbled with the microphone as his face contorted with anger. The audience watched in stunned silence as the tech mogul struggled to maintain his composure. Fun? You call this fun? Elon's voice cracked slightly. You've spent the last 10 minutes mocking everything I've worked for. And for what? Cheap laughs? The studio fell completely silent. No one moved. No one even seemed to breathe. Stephen's smile faltered for the first time as he realized things had gone too far. Look, maybe we should take a commercial break and... No, Elon cut him off. No more breaks, no more jokes. I'm done. With trembling hands, Elon finally managed to rip the microphone from his shirt, accidentally tearing the fabric in the process. He threw the mic onto the floor with a loud thud that echoed through the silent studio. I can't take this anymore, he declared, his voice breaking with emotion. The studio audience gasped collectively as the tech billionaire turned on his heel and stormed toward the exit. Stephen stood up from behind his desk, realizing the situation had completely derailed. "Elon, wait!" But the billionaire was already pushing past the curtain, disappearing backstage as the stunned audience watched in disbelief. The show's theme music started playing awkwardly, trying to cover the uncomfortable silence. What would happen next? Would Stephen follow him? Would Elon come back? The tension in the studio was electric as everyone waited to see how this unprecedented moment in late-night television history would unfold. The cameras kept rolling as Stephen stood awkwardly beside his desk, his usual confidence shattered. For a few seconds that felt like hours, he stared at the curtain Elon had disappeared behind. The audience sat in uncomfortable silence, some people whispering to each other, others recording everything on their phones. "Well," Stephen finally said, adjusting his tie nervously, "that was unexpected." He forced a small laugh that nobody joined. "We'll be right back after these messages." Maybe. As the show cut to commercial, chaos erupted backstage. Production. Assistants ran in all directions. The show's producer, Maria, rushed toward Elon's dressing room, followed closely by Stephen, who had sprinted off the stage the moment the cameras stopped rolling. "Elon!" Maria called, knocking frantically on the dressing room door. "Mr. Musk, please. We need to talk about this." Inside the room, Elon paced back and forth, his face still flushed with anger. He jabbed at his phone, sending text messages to his team. "Elon," Stephen's voice came through the door. "Come on, man, open up. Let's talk this out." "Talk what out?" Elon shouted back. "You humiliated me on national television. Do you have any idea what this will do to Tesla's stock tomorrow? To all my companies?" Stephen winced, looking at Maria with concern. "It's just comedy, Elon. That's what we do on the show. Everyone gets ribbed a little." The door flew open so suddenly that both Stephen and Maria jumped back. Elon stood in the doorway, his hair disheveled, eyes blazing. "A little? You called my life's work a joke. You mocked everything I've built." Elon's voice cracked with emotion. "I'm trying to push humanity forward, and you're making cheap shots about exploding batteries." Stephen held up his hands in a calming gesture. "Look, I may have gone too far. The writers gave me some pretty pointed jokes and—" "The writers?" Elon laughed bitterly. "So now you're blaming your writing staff? Take some responsibility, Stephen." By now, a small crowd of staff members had gathered nearby, watching the confrontation with wide eyes. Someone was definitely recording this on their phone. "Hey, everyone not directly involved in fixing this situation. Please give us some space," Maria ordered, shooing away the onlookers. "We've got 4 minutes until we're back on air, people." Stephen lowered his voice. "Elon, listen. We need to fix this. The show's still live. We can go back out there, laugh it off, and end things on a better note." "You think I'm going back out there after that?" Elon shook his head in disbelief. "No way. I'm leaving. My team is already calling a car." "You can't just leave in the middle of the show," Maria protested. "We have another segment planned with you. The audience is waiting." "The audience?" Elon's eyebrows shot up. "You mean the people who were laughing at me getting torn to shreds? They'll survive the disappointment." Down the hallway, a frantic production assistant was waving at them. 2 minutes, she mouthed desperately. Stephen ran a hand through his hair, his mind racing for a solution. "Okay, what if we change the next segment? No more jokes about your companies. We'll talk about whatever you want. Space exploration, sustainable energy, your vision for the future. The real stuff that matters to you." For a moment, Elon seemed to consider it. His breathing slowed slightly, and the red in his face faded. 1 minute, the assistant called out. "What do you say?" Stephen asked, extending his hand. "Give me a chance to fix this?" Elon looked at the offered hand, then back at Stephen's face. "The damage is already done. Do you know how many clips of you mocking me are going to be all over the internet by morning? The stock market opens in 12 hours, and Tesla shareholders are going to panic. Then let's give them something else to talk about, Stephen urged. Come back out there with me. Show them you can take a joke. We'll end on a positive note, I promise. A stagehand appeared, looking panicked. We're back in 30 seconds. Decision time. Elon's phone buzzed with incoming messages. He glanced down at it, his expression darkening as he read the screen. Too late, he muttered. It's already trending on social media. Colbert Musk meltdown is blowing up. He turned the screen to show Stephen, who winced at the sight of video clips already circulating online. 10 seconds. Fine, Elon suddenly decided. I'll go back out, but on my terms. Whatever you want, Stephen agreed quickly, relief washing over his face. The stage manager practically pushed them both back toward the set as the countdown reached 0. The show's theme music played as cameras focused on Stephen's empty desk. Stephen jogged onto the stage, straightening his suit and forcing a smile for the audience, who applauded uncertainly. Welcome back to The Late Show, Stephen said, slightly out of breath. As you might have noticed, we had a bit of an unplanned intermission. But I'm happy to say our guest has agreed to return and… The audience erupted in surprised applause as Elon walked back onto the stage. His microphone had been hastily replaced, and his expression was stone-cold serious as he took his seat. Thank you for coming back, Elon, Stephen said, his tone notably more respectful than before. I came back for one reason, Elon replied, his voice steady and cold. I want your viewers to hear the truth, not just jokes. Something in his tone made Stephen shift uncomfortably in his chair. The host could sense that Elon was not here to make peace. The floor is yours, Stephen offered with a nervous smile. Elon leaned forward, looking straight into the camera. What people like Stephen don't understand is that innovation isn't a joke. When you're trying to change the world, you fail sometimes. You make mistakes. That's part of the process. A few audience members clapped supportively. Stephen nodded, trying to appear contrite. But you know what? Elon continued, his voice gaining strength. While people like you were laughing at my robot costume, as you called it, my team was working day and night to create real AI systems that will transform how we live. Elon, Stephen tried to interject. I'm not finished, Elon cut him off sharply. The audience gasped at his boldness. You mocked Tesla's stock price. Do you know what causes stocks to drop? Influential people spreading doubt and mockery on national television. The atmosphere in the studio grew increasingly tense. The camera caught Stephen tugging at his collar, clearly uncomfortable with how things were unfolding. In fact, Elon continued, pulling out his phone. While we were backstage, I got messages that Tesla's stock futures are already showing signs of instability based on clips from the first part of this interview. Your jokes have real-world consequences, Stephen. Stephen's expression changed from discomfort to alarm. That certainly wasn't my intention. Intentions don't matter when the damage is done, Elon interrupted again. He turned to address the audience directly. This is what happens in today's world. Someone builds something, tries to make a difference, and the response is mockery and cheap shots for ratings. The audience was completely silent now. Many looked uncomfortable, shifting in their seats. Others seemed riveted by the drama unfolding before them. Look, Elon, Stephen tried again, his voice softer now. Comedy sometimes hits hard, but is it comedy when people lose their jobs because of stock crashes? Elon demanded. Is it funny when projects that could help humanity get delayed because of negative public perception? The tension in the room was unbearable. The band leader looked questioningly at the producer, who shrugged helplessly from offstage. This was totally uncharted territory for The Late Show. I think we should, Stephen began, clearly trying to regain control of his show. But Elon wasn't done. His eyes narrowed as he delivered his final blow. You know what the real joke is, Stephen? a talk show host who thinks tearing people down is entertainment. Maybe instead of mocking those trying to build the future, you could use your platform to inspire people." The audience erupted in a mixture of gasps, uncomfortable murmurs, and scattered applause. Stephen's face had gone pale. The camera zoomed in on the host's stunned expression as he struggled to find a response that would salvage the situation. What would happen now? Could Stephen recover from this public dressing down? Or had Elon just delivered the final devastating blow in this unexpected battle of wits? The tension between the two men crackled like electricity, with millions watching live as this unprecedented confrontation reached its boiling point. The studio fell into uncomfortable silence. Even the band had stopped playing, unsure of what to do next. The cameras continued rolling, capturing every excruciating second of the standoff between the talk show host and the tech billionaire. Stephen cleared his throat and straightened his suit jacket, buying himself precious seconds to think. His career had prepared him for hecklers and difficult guests, but nothing quite like this. The audience watched with bated breath, phones held high to record what was quickly becoming the most viral late-night moment in years. "You're right," Stephen finally said, his voice quieter than usual. Elon, who had been ready for another battle, blinked in surprise. "What?" "I said you're right," Stephen repeated, louder this time. He set his signature blue card down on the desk and leaned forward. "Comedy should punch up, not down. And somewhere tonight I crossed that line." The audience murmured in surprise. This wasn't the snappy comeback they expected. "Look," Stephen continued, "I make jokes for a living. Sometimes they land, sometimes they don't. But you're right that words have consequences, especially from someone with a platform like mine." Elon's defensive posture softened slightly, though. Suspicion still clouded his features. "Is this another joke?" Stephen shook his head. "No joke. I'm being serious now." He turned toward the audience. "And I want to say something to everyone watching. What we do here every night, the monologues, the interviews, they're meant to be fun, but they're also powerful. And with that power comes responsibility." The studio remained silent, hanging on every word. This raw, unscripted moment was unlike anything The Late Show had seen before. "The truth is," Stephen continued, looking back at Elon, "it's easy to make fun of big ideas. It's easy to point out when rockets explode or cars have problems. What's hard is having those big ideas in the first place. It's hard to put yourself out there and try to change things." Elon's expression remained guarded, but he nodded slightly, acknowledging Stephen's words. "So," Stephen said, extending his hand across the desk, "I apologize. Sincerely. The jokes went too far tonight." For a long moment Elon stared at Stephen's outstretched hand. The whole studio seemed to hold its breath. Would he accept the apology or storm off again? Finally, Elon reached out and shook Stephen's hand. The audience erupted in applause and cheers of relief. "Thank you," Elon said as the noise died down. "Apology accepted." Stephen smiled, the tension visibly draining from his shoulders. "Now, can we maybe start over?" "I promise, no cheap shots this time." "I'd appreciate that," Elon replied, settling back into his chair. His phone buzzed again in his pocket, but this time he ignored it. "So," Stephen said, picking up a fresh blue card, "let's talk about something that matters to you. I know you've been working on some new innovations with sustainable energy. Tell us about that." And just like that, the interview transformed. Elon began speaking passionately about solar technology and grid storage solutions, his eyes lighting up as he explained how these technologies could help fight climate change. Stephen listened attentively, asking thoughtful questions that showed genuine interest rather than looking for punchlines. The audience, who had come expecting late-night comedy, instead witnessed something rare, a meaningful conversation about important ideas. "The way I see it," Elon explained, now fully engaged, "we have all the technology we need to transition away from fossil fuels. What we lack is implementation speed. And what's holding that back? Stephen asked, completely invested in the discussion. Politics, economics, old infrastructure, Elon replied. Change is hard, especially when there are powerful interests who profit from keeping things the same. As the segment continued, viewers at home were posting millions of comments online. The hashtag had changed from #UITU Colbert Musk meltdown to Colbert Musk makeup, with clips of the apology and the thoughtful conversation that followed spreading even faster than the initial confrontation. "We're going to run out of time soon," Stephen said, glancing at the clock. "But before we do, I want to ask you something personal, if that's okay." Elon hesitated, then nodded cautiously. "What keeps you going?" Stephen asked. "When your projects face setbacks, when the stock market reacts badly, when people like me make jokes, what makes you get up the next day and keep pushing forward?" Elon was quiet for a moment, considering the question. The studio was silent, waiting for his answer. "I believe humanity has a choice," Elon finally said. "We can stay on Earth until some disaster, either natural or self-created, wipes us out, or we can become a multiplanetary species, spreading consciousness throughout the stars." He paused, looking directly at Stephen. "I choose the second option. And every day, no matter what happens, that choice gets me out of bed." The audience broke into spontaneous applause, many people rising to their feet. Even Stephen looked moved by the answer. "Thank you for that," Stephen said sincerely. "And thank you for coming back out here after our rocky start. I've learned something tonight, and I think maybe our viewers have too." Elon nodded, a genuine smile finally crossing his face. "Sometimes the best conversations start with disagreement." "Ladies and gentlemen," Stephen announced, standing up, "Elon Musk!" The audience erupted in thunderous applause as Elon stood and shook Stephen's hand once more. This time, instead of storming off, he waved to the crowd before leaving the stage, properly as the show cut to commercial. Backstage, the production team breathed a collective sigh of relief. What had nearly been the biggest disaster in the show's history had somehow transformed into one of its most powerful moments. "That was something," Maria said, still looking slightly shell-shocked as Stephen and Elon walked backstage together. "It certainly wasn't the show we planned," Stephen admitted with a small laugh. "But maybe it was the show people needed to see," Elon replied. As they reached Elon's dressing room, he pulled out his phone and scrolled through the notifications that had been flooding in. "Well, would you look at that?" he said, showing the screen to Stephen. "Tesla's after-hours trading is up. Apparently, sincerity sells better than mockery." Stephen smiled sheepishly. "Lesson learned." "Mr. Musk," a production assistant called, "your car is ready whenever you'd like to leave." Elon nodded his thanks, then turned back to Stephen. "You know, I came here tonight expecting the usual superficial interview. Ask a few questions, plug my latest project, tell a practiced anecdote, get some laughs, and go home. And instead you got the night from hell," Stephen quipped. "At first maybe," Elon conceded. "But what happened out there at the end, that was real. That doesn't happen often in media these days." "No, it doesn't," Stephen agreed. "Maybe we should both lose our tempers more often." They shared a genuine laugh. The earlier tension completely dissolved. "Next time you're in town," Stephen said, "come back on the show. I promise to be nicer about your triangular trucks. And I promise not to rip off any more microphones," Elon replied with a grin. As Elon finally left the building and stepped into his waiting car, his phone exploded with messages from his team. Clips from the show were already going viral, with millions of views and shares. But unlike what he had feared earlier, the story wasn't about a meltdown anymore. It was about something much rarer in today's world, an authentic moment of conflict, resolution, and understanding between two very different people. The next morning, news shows and social media platforms were buzzing with discussion about what had happened on The Late Show. Cultural commentators analyzed the deeper meaning, comedians made jokes about it, and ordinary viewers shared their thoughts on who had won the confrontation. But the truth was, there had been no winner or loser. Instead, what had started as a disastrous interview had evolved into something more meaningful. For a brief moment, real conversation had broken through the practiced performances that usually dominated late-night television. And maybe, just maybe, both men had learned something valuable from the experience. Stephen about the responsibility that came with his platform, and Elon about the importance of sometimes stepping back from the work to engage with critics rather than dismiss them. As for the viewers, they had witnessed something they wouldn't soon forget. A reminder that behind the carefully crafted public images, even famous people are human beings with real feelings, real passions, and occasionally real tempers. And sometimes the most electric moments in television history happen when the script goes out the window and raw humanity takes its place.